From our studios here at Kokomlemle in Accra, this is Joy News Prime with me, Samuel Kojo Brace. In the bulletin this hour, flood waters begin to recede in communities within the Ga South municipality of the Greater Accra region, but NADMO is predicting more trouble for residents.
Flood has really evacuated a lot of people, and this situation is beyond control by the people of Weja Municipal Assembly. It's one of the heaviest floods we've ever experienced in our community.
Meanwhile, the Electricity Company of Ghana says although it is losing revenue, it cannot risk restoring power supply to Weja and it adjoining communities as some of the transformers are in water. He is sleeping on the job. He should resign. That is the call of private legal practitioner Martin Pegbu to the president, as he says the first gentleman cannot fight illegal mining.
Part of Ghana, you see the National Investigative Bureau. They have officers all over. So as you are walking around, he's also working in the society and watching. So he knows, look, the president can't say that he's not being briefed about this thing. He's just sleeping on the job.
Also, National Democratic Congress casts doubt on the president's commitment to prosecute members of his government and party involved in illegal mining.
In the NDC have always maintained that as far as we are concerned, the Akufo-Addo Bawumia MPP government has not exhibited any genuine commitment to the fight against illegal mining.
Well, the National Democratic Congress is casting doubt on the president's commitment to prosecute members of the New Patriotic Party government who are caught being involved in illegal mining menace. Addressing a news conference Thursday, the party's national communications officer, Sami Jemfe, described what he referred to as the president's seemingly renewed fight against illegal mining as nothing but a sham.
We in the NDC have always maintained that as far as we are concerned, and as the evidence bears us out, the Akufo-Addo Bawumia MPP government has not exhibited any genuine commitment to the fight against illegal mining. And that their so-called fight against Galamsey is nothing but a scam. Indeed, we have always told Ghanaians that the single most important thing needed to wage a successful war against illegal mining in Ghana is the political will of the duty bearers of the country to confront the menace and all the dark forces fueling it, regardless of whose ox is God. It has, however, been clear to us from day one that behind the facade of the so-called Galamsey fight of the Akufo-Addo Bawumia government is a well-crafted ruse designed to appropriate the illicit Galamsey trade for MPP apparatchiks and higher-ups in the Akufo-Addo Bawumia government and their foreign collaborators. Time without number, we have got the clearest confirmation from countless instances of state-backed complicity, active participation, and sometimes clear aiding and abetment of illegal mining activities, not only by officials of the New Patriotic Party, but by some of the very men and women in the Akufo-Addo Bawumia government entrusted with the responsibility of protecting our environment. Ladies and gentlemen, how can the man, President Akufo-Addo, who stood on a political campaign platform in the year 2016 in Obuasi and promised to promote illegal mining, aka Galamsey, when elected, lecture us on the need to depoliticize the fight against illegal mining? How is that even possible? And maybe somebody is hearing this for the first time. The person may not know that President Akufo-Addo actually promised to promote Galamsey, and he made that promise on the campaign platform for votes. And so today, if he turns around to talk to us, sermonize about not politicizing Galamsey, we should be asking him to be apologizing for that, first of all. The party here Sika scandal once again exposes President Akufo-Addo and the ruling MPP as being the chief culprits of the politicization of the fight against Galamsey.
The NDC is therefore demanding that the Akufo-Addo government deals with its own members involved in Galamsey to send the right signals about government's commitment to end the menace.
Mr. President, we demand the following urgent and concrete actions from you if you want Ghanaians to take you seriously. Number one, we demand the immediate prosecution of all government functionaries and MPP officials who have engaged in illegal mining, such as Charles Bisu, Chama Wuntumi. The evidence is clear. The Minerals Commission, your own Minister for Lands and Natural Resources say Chama Wuntumi is doing Galamsey in the Tano Nimiri Forest Reserve. You don't need any other evidence before you can prosecute him. And Yowusu, Ekwawusi, Professor Frimpong Boateng, among others. This will be the first step to your redemption and serve as a deterrent to other people within your government and party. You need to send a clear signal to Ghanaians that anyone caught in Galamsey will be dealt with without fear or favor, regardless of their party colors. Number two, Mr. President, we demand that all the so-called illegal mining companies, like the Akonta Mining Company, which belongs to Chama Wuntumi, the Heritage Imperial Mining Company, which belongs to Mr. Donald Ensua, a known financier of the MPP, who have invaded forest reserves without any mining leases or permits, must be closed down and prosecuted. The assets of these companies must be confiscated and their owners surcharged with the cost of the destruction they have caused our environment. We demand that all security personnel, number three, complicit in illegal mining activities should be made to face internal investigations and discharged from the various services to serve as a deterrent to others. Mr. President, until you undertake the above actions faithfully, your so-called renewed fight against Galamsey will remain a mirage and a mere talk shop.
Still on this, legal practitioner Martin Pegbo is skeptical about whether President Akufo-Addo can really lead the government to win the war against Galamsey. He's thus calling on him to resign as president.
It's when the president says, if accusations are made, I find it very laughable. One, before he came, he said he will use the Anas principle. So from the way people are complaining over all this month, where is the Anas principle he promised? So they will do undercover investigations. So all this while he's not aware. Number two, look, in every part of Ghana, you see the National Investigative Bureau. They have officers all over. So as you are walking around, he's also walking in the society and watching. So he knows, look, the president can't say that he's not being briefed about this thing. He's just sleeping on the job. I think, look, President Akufo-Addo, I don't know how many times we have to call on him. He just has to resign. Look, this man is just giving us too much headache. He has checked out. He should just resign. Okay, resign. That's the best thing. Because look, he's shown too clearly that he's not competent. If Galamsey, we can't fight Galamsey. Every time he's always reactive. But as I said, it's a citizenry. If we don't rise, this is the kind of leaders we get. We made a mistake by voting for him, but it's not late. We can stand up and push him out. I think Akufo-Addo should just resign. This thing has to stop. He's taking us for fools. It's just too much. You can't just disrespect the whole country. Every time you just come, kukwasa, kukwasa. What kind of thing is this?
Now, the Electricity Company of Ghana says although it is losing revenue, it cannot risk restoring power supply to Wager and its adjoining communities as some of its transformers in the affected areas are in water. The flooded areas have been without power supply for the past 48 hours. But ECG says a technical audit of its equipment must be done when the flood subsides to know the extent of damage and when to restore power supply. We'll be hearing from the ECG Accra West Communications Officer Fred Bambil Johnson shortly. But first, Maxwell Agbagba has been interacting with some residents.
You can see that canoe over there, the man paddling his canoe over there using it. We're told that is the mode of transportation now for a majority of the residents. Another thing that we've seen here also is the electricity pylons here. Also, many of them also currently in water. For the past 48 hours, these communities that you see in your pictures do not actually have electricity. For the past 48 hours, they have been without electricity, understandably so, because some of the ECG transformers are still in water, although the water is receding. Some of the transformers are still in water, and we're told that it would be very dangerous for the Electricity Company of Ghana to restore power supply. I have someone here with me I'm going to interact with. He's a resident, another resident here, also here with me. Yep. Yeah, so join me. Hello, sir.
Yes, sir.
Welcome to Joy News. Kindly turn this way for me. Yeah. So, can you tell us, how were you affected by the flood?
This flood has really evacuated a lot of people, and this situation is beyond control by the people of Weja Municipal Assembly. It's one of the heaviest flood we've ever experienced in our community. People have lost most of their properties, and heavy damages are happening to people. Young kids and other family members couldn't play their activities, going to work, going to school. We couldn't have all these activities very displayed. The electricity lights have been off for several days, and people have lost their groceries and other stuffs.
Personally, did you lose anything?
Yes, for me, my site is different, but my friends out here in the community, because I have to show much concern to them. Because
let me speak to you. Sir, what's your name?
Abedi David Lavi.
Okay. You were telling me that many of the school children in this community are unable to go to school.
Yes, those who are going to government school and preparatory school at Weja cannot cross the river. Why? Because the 4 panels of the dam have been opened, and the pressure is too very high. So they can't use the canoe to cross.
Okay.
They are in their houses. But those who can go to school at this residential area, Igbe Town, can go. So the others are in the house. Then those who used to board vehicle from Weja to Abosokan, Kaneshie, Accra, who cannot cross. So unless they walk to ACC Junction before they board vehicle to their workplace.
Okay. Is this the first time you're seeing something like this?
Well, it has happened before, but it wasn't too pathetic like this. It wasn't too pathetic like this. This one is very, very dangerous.
Okay.
Yes. Because if you watch around, story buildings have buried down. There's some of the short buildings to the windows levels. So all have evacuated from their house.
Now, Communications Officer of the Accra West Electricity Company of Ghana, Fred Bambil Johnson, says they are working around the clock to restore power to the communities.
So since Tuesday, the 4th of October, we've been having reports from some residents that their areas were flooded. And so once these reports came in, we sent our men onto the field to have a look at it. And the technical decision was taken to curtail power supply to these areas. Now, primarily, it was for 2 reasons, to safeguard lives and property, and also to make sure that our installations in these areas are also safe. So since Tuesday, some areas have been off, and by virtue of the fact that areas now don't have access to power to use, it means that in terms of our revenue collection as a company, we are losing out. We are not able to make money from the power that people would otherwise have used and paid for. And also, we have some areas where, for our ground-mounted transformers, we have the areas around which they are flooded. And so some of our ground-mounted transformers are sitting in flood waters. But as of yet, we've not been able to have access to these places to fully assess what the damage is. And so we await. However, power has been curtailed from these transformers to the various places they were serving. Well, currently, we are not talking numbers. Like I said, our immediate goal is to make sure that as much as possible, the power we are already supplying to our customers is safe. And so areas there will be a challenge. Don't forget that, water is a very good conductor of electricity. So we're all aware of what the dangers could be if there are flood waters and then any of our lines either drop in there or there's access to electricity and there's any challenge. So our main objective now is to make sure that lives and property are safe, that there's no risk to them. Then once we move forward and we're able to deal with the immediate problems, we shall look at the numbers. But certainly, because people in these areas cannot for the electricity they are not using, it means that we are losing out in terms of revenue. And so it's a loss to the company. But comparing that to the lives and property that would have been at risk, I believe that that's a safer choice to make. So yes, we are on the losing end, but then because we are trying to safeguard lives and property, we are better off doing that than the alternative. We had some opinion leaders and some local political leaders about the levels of water that was rushing into their communities. There to do a technical assessment and realized that it was safer for us to put off power so that the various relief measures and the various measures that are being put in place are handled. Now, the assessment so far has shown that for some areas, the water levels are receding. And so we've been able to restore supply to a couple of communities that were initially off. We are still doing some further assessment today. And hopefully by close of the day, if we get the green light, we shall be putting some other areas on as well. As a company, don't forget that it's the electricity that we sell. And it's in our interest if more people get access to electricity and use it, because it's only by using and by paying that we make some money. But we are not prepared to do this at the expense of life and property. So that's been the consideration so far. And we are working very closely with the National Disaster Management Organization, that's NADMO, and other agencies on the field. So as and when we get the green lights that it's safer to extend supply to some areas, we would do so and extend supply to them.
To other stories, it is emerging that month after the Attorney General, Godfred Dame, made recommendations to Interior Minister Ambrose Derry to pay compensation to victims of the Ejura shooting incident, victims are still yet to get their due. Interior Minister Ambrose Derry told Parliament in early July that the payment of compensation to victims had delayed due to administrative issues and that government was still waiting for the advice of the Attorney General and Minister for Justice.
After the three-man committee set up to investigate the unfortunate incident, Ejura had submitted their report. My ministry wrote to the Ministry of Health, informing the ministry of the 3 persons who sustained various degrees of injuries during the Ejura disturbances on 29 June 2021 to facilitate the process of compensating the victims. The Minister of Health subsequently requested that Konfonochi Teaching Hospital, which attended to the victims, submit a report on the extent of injury to the victims to inform the decision on the quantum of damage compensation due them. Mr. Speaker, a follow-up on my ministry's letter to the Minister of Health revealed that the Office of the Attorney General and Ministry of Justice had also requested the Ministry of Health to set up a medical board to assess current medical conditions of the 3 other injured persons and to state any permanent disability as a consequence of the shooting incident. Mr. Speaker, I am informed that the Attorney General and the Minister of Justice has received a medical report from Konfonochi Teaching Hospital on the injured persons to determine the parameters due the victims. Notwithstanding, the Office of the Attorney General has requested victims to provide them with all medical receipts on which they are awaiting response. Mr. Speaker, the 3 victims will be compensated when all administrative processes are completed.
Now, just a little over 2 weeks after the minister said this to Parliament, the advice of the Attorney General raised to the Minister for Interior, Ambrose Derry, recommending monetary and other compensation to victims, but this has still not been paid. Now, indeed, only yesterday, families of some of the victims of the Ejura shooting incident addressed a news conference lamenting the delay in paying compensation and urged government to settle the victims as soon as practicable.
still our hospital. Yeah, buy hospital. Yeah, you know. Still our crown, yes, sir, no one tom. Still our hospital. Yeah, buy a crown for that hospital, crowd house, or comprin, while we are general to one mumprin. You see, I'm an old cassette, me phone cry belly. And your number, you know, I'm a picket because of a car, me did it. Nina was our name.
She herself has a psychological problem because she was part of those people who picked up her husband in a pool of blood. So psychologically, she's also affected. And as at now, if not with the support of our council, with other aides who usually visit, Islamic clerics who usually visit the family to advise and other things, I don't think any psychologist has ever been in our house. How wicked can we be? How more do you want to destroy our family? How more do you want to destroy our family? Over the past 16 months, since Edie was arrested together with those who killed Kaka, the prosecutors have not stepped in court even once. Just yesterday, we were at court and no prosecutor was in court. We have been attending court every single day, and yet the prosecutors does not even bother to show up. What kind of justice system is this? What more do you want from us? What more do you want from us? When is enough enough? This must stop. This victimization must stop. We are nothing but a poor family. We are nothing but a poor family. Enough is enough. This attempt to use government officials to smuggle Edie out of this country in order to accuse him of running away shows your wickedness. All you care about is your PR and propaganda.
Now, joining us are secured copies of the advice of the Attorney General on the compensations, and my colleague MFR Pau joins with details. MFR, the Attorney General set out the various demands of the victims and proceed to make an analysis on that. Tell us more.
We have, Kojo. It's a letter from the Attorney General, Godfred Yeboah-Dame, to Interior Minister Ambrose Jerry. A medical committee was set up to assess the victims and present a report. Well, the victims also provided some receipts to cover their medical bills. It is instructive to also note that this report on victims and compensations focused on 3 victims who made some specific demands. I'll talk about these victims. I'll start with Louis Ayikba. He's a 20-year-old and he was seeking an amount of 1.28 million cedis. On the part of Nasif Nuhu, he's a 30-year-old and he was seeking an amount of 230,000 Ghana cedis. The third victim, Awao Misbao, was not represented by an attorney, so did not make a specific claim. So the Attorney General cited in his letter that various court judgments and other best practices to evaluate and assess the claims of these victims should be used.
Now, what conclusion did the Attorney General reach on how much exactly should be paid in monetary compensation, as well as other support for the victims?
Well, the Attorney General, after the evaluation and assessment done, recommended that Louis Ayikba be paid 347,953 as compensation. Nasif Nuhu was to be paid 192,425 in compensation. Then Awal Misbao, you recall, was not represented. He's supposed to be paid an amount of 678,519. So there was also a recommendation that victims should be offered psychological evaluation and also be given appropriate psychological support. The victims should also appropriately be rehabilitated, trained or retrained as per injuries sustained to enable them integrate socioeconomically into the society, and that in the case of Awal Misbao, the appropriate functional prosthesis should also be provided him to assist his mobilization, and finally, that the victim should be followed up medically for a minimum of 2 years to manage any long-term complications that may arise.
All right. Thank you very much. That's my colleague, MFA Apau there. Now, the National Democratic, let's return to the Galamsey story, because the National Democratic Congress is casting doubt on the president's commitment to prosecute members of the new Patriotic Party and government who are caught being involved in the illegal mining menace. Addressing a news conference Thursday, the party's National Communications Officer, Sami Jemfi, described what he referred to as the president's seemingly renewed fight against illegal mining as nothing but a sham. Now, he joins us live on the line for a conversation on this. Now, thank you so much, Sami, for joining us. The president has indicated that indeed the government is going to prosecute people, whether you are a party member or a member of the government. If found culpable in this, you'll be prosecuted. You're also making the same call. Why this call at this time when the president says, I'm going to do exactly that? Mr. Jemfi, kindly unmute so we can follow what you're telling us. Okay, so we'll try and raise Sami Jemfi back on the line so we can have an interaction on this one. In the meantime, the Food and Drugs Authority is warning the public against some contaminated and substandard pediatric medication on the African market. The FDA, in a statement, said it has strengthened its post-market surveillance activities at the borders and across the country with a view of identifying and withdrawing any unregistered product on the Ghanaian market. The statement reads, the Food and Drugs Authority, FDA, wishes to bring to your attention that the World Health Organization, WHO, has identified four substandard medicinal products in the Gambia. The four products are promethazine oral solution, cofemalizine baby cough syrup, Markov baby cough syrup, and Magrip and cold syrup. The products are substandard because laboratory analysis of samples of each of the four products confirms that they contain unacceptable amount of diethylene glycol and ethylene glycol as contaminant. The manufacturer of these products, Maiden Pharmaceuticals Limited, that's in Haryana, India, has also not provided guarantees to WHO on the safety and quality of these products as of 5th October 2022. Now, diethylene glycol and ethylene glycol are toxic to humans when consumed and can prove fatal. Toxic effect can include abdominal pain, vomiting, diarrhea, inability to pass urine, headache, altered mental state, and acute kidney injury, which may lead to death. The FDA would like to inform you that these products have not been registered by the authority and are not expected on the Ghanaian market. However, they may have been distributed illegally. Now, the FDA wishes to advise all healthcare professionals to report suspected falsified medicinal product to the FDA by completing the Adverse React reporting form or online using the link adr.fdaghana.gov.gh or call mobile number 0244310297 or send an email to drug.safety@fda.ghana.gov.gh. There's more on myjoyonline.com. There's still the Joy News Prime. We'll take a quick break. Stay with us. Welcome back from the break. Now, some students at the Mechanical Engineering Department of KNUST have developed a relatively cost-effective digital instrument for measuring ambient temperature and solar irradiance. Now, the instrument is designed to ease the daunting and expensive task of students assessing readily available digital instrument for measuring the temperature of their surroundings and irradiation from the sun. Love FM's Emmanuel Bright Kweku interacted with a student and has come out with this report.
Energy output and effectiveness of solar photovoltaic systems may gradually reduce due to heat and other environmental factors. Thus, the need for scientific measurements to deepen the understanding of the global change to better design and size PV systems for enhanced performance and economic benefits.
I'm Ceci Ebenezer, and we came up with the Arduino program for the instruments.
I'm Fiamao Sylvester. I'm Kevin Amokwando, and we did the fabrication of the instruments.
My name is Abdul Rashid Tahir.
And I am Andy Abekusei. We came up with the design of the final concept.
Andy Abekusei explains the motive for the instrument.
We realized that in Ghana, it's a challenge for students in tertiary and secondary institutions to have access to instruments that is able to measure parameters such as solar irradiance, temperature, humidity, and airflow. Existing instruments that are used to measure these parameters are very expensive, and there are no locally manufactured ones, therefore they have to be imported from outside.
Under the supervision of Professor George Yao Obeng, the user-friendly and multi-metric prototype instrument was developed employing a solar cell and other locally acquired components.
Ambient temperature is just the temperature of the surroundings, and the solar radiation is the energy from the sun that is being incident on this surface. And here the surface is a PV cell. So this is a DHT11 to measure the ambient temperature. This is a PV cell to measure the solar irradiation. And this is a 9-volt battery to power our instruments. And this is a USB port to help us connect our instrument to the computer. This is an LCD screen that displays the temperature values and the solar irradiance values. The DH11 senses the ambient temperature and the PV cell senses the solar irradiance. These signals are in the form of analog, and they are being converted from analog to digital by the help of microcontrollers inside this instrument. So these digital signals are now serve as the output in the form of temperature readings in degrees Celsius and irradiance readings in watts per meter squared.
When fully developed and commercialized, this device will be locally available and accessible at a relatively lower cost to universities, high schools, and STEM schools for scientific study and capacity development.
One may like to know what's the difference between our instruments and the already existing ones. So first of all, our instrument is cost effective, it's easy to operate, it's resistant to corrosion, and it's accessible. And the accuracy of the temperature sensor is plus or minus 2 degrees, and the accuracy of the solar irradiance sensor is 20 watts per meter squared.
This would facilitate the design and sizing of renewable energy systems, particularly solar PV systems, for local electricity generation for households and industrial use. For Joy News, Emmanuel Bright Kweku reporting.
Now, Chief Justice Kwesi Anini-Yeboah is assuring the Ghanaian citizenry of his commitment to uphold the integrity of the judiciary. He says his administration is devoted to delivering quality justice services to Ghanaians. He, however, challenged professionals in the justice delivery sector to work towards correcting poor public perception about the judiciary in recent times.
The Chief Justice was addressing the first quadrennial Delegates Congress of the Senior Staff Association of Judiciary Service of Ghana after it broke away from the Judicial Service Staff Association of Ghana in 2018. The association includes court clerks, interpreters, registrars, and bailiffs. The 5-day conference is themed Promoting Efficiency in Justice Delivery, the Role of Staff and Management.
I wish to draw your attention to the fact that our services constitute public goods, and as staff of the judicial service, you cannot remain insular and detached from the regular accountability demands made of the judiciary. In other words, you need to understand from the outset that as public entities, I am referring to both the judiciary and the judicial service, the general public have a stake in terms of our competency, efficiency, and institutional integrity. Therefore, as Chief Justice, and I speak for management too, I welcome constructive dialogue and informed suggestions that have the potential of endangering growth and efficiency in justice delivery. Management is determined to build a trustworthy and robust institution, as can be clearly gathered from the various reform initiatives underway. We cannot enhance our efficiency in the justice system without the application of ICT solutions, which with specific focus on the courts in particular, and you as staff must ensure that these interventions work, because we must be abreast with what is going on in other jurisdictions.
Justice Enim Yeboah implored association members to commit to good work ethics and strive for excellence.
On this note, I entreat the leadership of both unions, USAG and SAJU, to collaborate at all times to achieve their collective interests as stipulated in the labor regulations of 2003. I charge both unions to endeavor to work together in unity and avoid unnecessary rivalry and friction to create a healthy working environment. For it is said, in unity is strength.
National President of SAJU, Marilyn Suta, called on the Chief Justice and the judiciary to motivate long-standing and hard-working staff at the Ghana Judiciary Service.
Judicial staff are faced with several challenges in the course of executing our daily tasks. Notable among them.
Now, the Dean of the School of Business of the University of Cape Coast, Professor John Gachi, has asserted that the failure to deal with the increasing activities of illegal miners would lead to dire consequences. He detailed that the canker, popularly called galamsey, would not only affect the safety of food crops and the health of residents, but could also lead to street terrorism, among others. Speaking at the World Teachers' Day celebrations in Ho, he entreated teachers to play their roles in the fight against galamsey.
Our communities are now exposed to callous and damaging activities of illegal mining operators. Our major water bodies are polluted and contaminated with different hazardous chemicals that will aggravate diseases relating to internal organs such as the liver, kidney, and the heart, as well as eye problems. Unfortunately, the failure to deal with this terrible situation is being trivialized with sweet leadership comment. The reality is that every part of Ghana will soon be affected by galamsey. We will soon be faced with food terrorism, chemically induced agricultural produce, and be burdened with costs of procuring drugs to treat unwarranted associated sicknesses. Illegal mining and its effect on the environment, health, education, agriculture, and national security is showcasing the state is anemic and powerless. Military task forces were deployed. Major Mahama was killed in the process. Excavators were seized and returned to those known to be politically connected. The impression of weakness is disturbing. Do we want to say we do not have what it takes to stop this, to save Ghana? It is clear that pollution of water bodies and crime against the environment are crimes against humanity. Why is the state docile?
Now, to what extent is peace-building operations run by the African Union conceptualized and actually implemented in ways that are less coercive and more cooperative than traditional missions dominated by Western powers? The answer will be found at the end of the 3-day workshop by the Peace Research Institute Frankfurt, Institute for Peace and Security Studies, and the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center, aimed to create a space for exchange on the role of cohesion in peace building. Speaking at the opening day of the workshop, member of the Executive Board of the Peace Research Institute of Frankfurt, Sabine Manet, explained to Joy News what they hope to achieve and the impact.
At the Peace Research Institute Frankfurt, we are studying aspects of coercion for a couple of years already, and the effects that coercive moments may render on peace and peace-building efforts. So the debate surrounding peace-building is that it has come into crisis, the liberal project, so to speak, in particular, and one of the perspectives that we find promising in order to find out why peace-building maybe does not work or is even supposed to fail in some instances is that there might be too much coercion involved or maybe also too little coercion. So we think that this is an aspect that is really well, it deserves more attention in order to find clues about peace building that actually works, because that's also what our institute is devoted to, researching paths into peace that work. We are interested in gathering the different strands of research and also experiences. So we are not a think tank in Germany that only works on theories and develops desk studies, but we want to collect experiences from the field. So it's not that we favor, let's say, a particular traditional approach, but we want to discuss experiences from different fields and listen to practitioners and scholars and then assess the whole landscape. One outcome is that we hope to get into closer collaboration also for, I mean, not just for these 3 days, but also in the future, to maybe develop common research perspectives and projects in order to also integrate other scholars' perspectives into our work and make this a fruitful collaboration, not just for one workshop or conference. We are very grateful for being able to meet here because we really appreciate the role of the center, and I mean it's really has become an institution in peacekeeping training. So on the one hand, of course, we want to learn from the experiences gathered at the center, but also we would like to fuel into the teaching courses and materials and give back, I mean, from the discussions that we have elsewhere. I mean, the normal procedure for us is that we attend conferences in the global north mostly, but we want to break this and also integrate perspectives from the south and get into closer communication and exchange.
Now, according to the World Health Organization, heart diseases and stroke, cancers, diabetes and respiratory diseases now outnumber infectious diseases as the top killers globally, accounting for about 74% of all death. These conditions are mostly due to modifiable risk factors, which include tobacco use, a healthy diet, physical inactivity, harmful use of alcohol, and air pollution. Unfortunately, our disease control structures in West Africa priorities have been traditionally driven by the burden of communicable diseases. The National Institute for Health and Care Research, Global Health Research Center, West Africa, is researching on themes to reflect 3 interrelated levels of support for NCDs that will respond to urgent need for enhancing research capacity to inform effective, evidence-based and people-centered approaches to non-communicable diseases, NCD control in West Africa. Speaking at the launch of the Stop Non-Communicable Diseases, Professor Irene Ejapon and Professor Tolib Mezov are co-directors of the research center.
Phase 1, which will be the first year of this work, will deepen our knowledge of country context and synthesize and contextualize available evidence. So this will be the focus of our work in the first year, which starts from 1st October 2022 through to 30th September 2023. In phase 2, which is year 2 of our effort, we will work closely with key stakeholders, drawing on the evidence we have generated in year 1 to co-produce content-specific intervention packages covering community-based prevention and facility-based care. In phase 3, which is year 3 to 5 of the project, we will now pilot test, implement, and evaluate the interventions which we have generated together in phase 1 and 2. Pilot testing will involve formative evaluation using mixed methods and summative evaluation. Examples of outcome measures that we are going to be interested in are treatment, utilization, access, adherence, access to prescribed medication, blood pressure, and blood sugar monitoring and control.
An independent scientific committee, will provide scientific advice, and in-country multi-stakeholder groups will review feasibility of our research plans and together with regional and international policymakers will facilitate research uptake into policy. And consortium has the following strengths. So first is over 10 years of collaboration. between the lead applicants, including ongoing MRC-funded research on adolescents' mental and sexual and reproductive health, as well as research on health systems responsiveness. We have a genuinely equitable partnerships with shared governance and distributed leadership roles within the consortium. Next, we have successful leadership of similar complex programs and networks utilizing robust organizational governance structures and processes that we'll build on. So we have strong partnerships with policymakers such as ministries of health in all countries, national NCD programs, and civil society organizations such as Global NCD Alliance branches in Ghana and Niger, as well as various civil society organizations in Burkina Faso.